graduate level exam and also CLAT exam. So do visit the AKSIS Academy, which is one of the India's premier institutions. And about me, I am Sandeep Bhushan Thumala, and my credentials are: I have 10 years of teaching experience for civil services. I teach international relations and internal security, as well as analysis of the Hindu newspaper. And this session will help you to crack prelims and mains examinations, because I would be emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases which are from the newspaper and which will be very, very important for the UPSC examination point of view. So thereby my emphasis on the keywords and the key phrases will definitely make you get into the mode of identifying the factual, analytical and also conceptual understanding for the prelims point of view. So definitely the conceptual, analytical and factual questions will be definitely made into the point that you would get into the better understanding about the prelims examinations, that is preliminary questions. And also in regards to the mains point of view, I will make you understand or inculcate the uh, identifying the keywords and the key phrases and using it in your answer writing, that is for the mains examination. So definitely by imbibing the keywords and the key phrases, your answers would be precise and concise. And once your answers are precise and concise, so definitely you will get into the mode of scoring high marks in the mains examinations, wherein the UPSC or the State Public Service Commission is actually expecting from you from the mains examination point of view. So definitely this session will help you to crack prelims and mains examination both for 2020 as well as 2021. And now I will get into the topic, that is today's topic, that is daily news analysis, which is today's The Hindu. And I would re-emphasize my tagline, that is I would go ahead throughout my lecture, I would be emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases which will be certainly useful for prelims as well as mains examination and make you comfortable and very, very clear about what the interview would be. So definitely my session will be in regards to helping you for the entire prelims, mains examination and also for the interview also. So definitely I would say very good morning to everyone who is in the live chat and also in the live, that is Rahul, Vijay, Krishna Bhargavi, Praveen Kumar Lingala, Harika Yadav, Sohail Arafat, Malvika Sajivan, Nandita Tepa, Madhu, David Paul, Gopi Naik. A very good morning to everyone. And the quote of the day. The quote of the day is: success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. So definitely what is very important is, in case if you are encountering failures in your due preparation, what is very important is you need to get into the mode of having enthusiasm even during the failures, because when you have the enthusiasm even during the failures, definitely you will attain the success. So what is success is, it consists of going from failure to failure. Definitely failures will definitely be part of your entire journey, but you should have enthusiasm and you should never lose enthusiasm. And that is what it is, and it's really makes you motivated to all the civil servant aspirants or the state service public service commissions who are preparing. It is very important. Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. So this is important. Madhava is John. Very good morning to you, Madhava. And now I'll get into the topic, that is the today's news paper, which talks about 200 proposals from China wait for security clearance by MHA. So here the security clearance is the keyword. The keyword here is the security clearance. So definitely the security clearance is from the government of India, is from the government of India. So this security clearance is in regards to the government approval, that is government of India, wherein it is in regards to the FDI. It is in regards to the foreign direct investment from other countries, But here in our discussion, the security clearance is definitely from the government of India, but now the security clearance is also we need to get it from the Ministry of Home Affairs. That is from the Ministry of Home Affairs were notified in the new rules. So what is important is that the Ministry of Home Affairs should give the security clearance for all the investments, that is the foreign direct investments from other countries who are investing in India, especially the countries which are bordering with India. Please do understand. This is very important based on the this is very important based on the security clearance on the new rules. So it is the new rules for the FDI. Please do understand. This is important for the prelims point of view. This is the new rules, that is for the FDIs or the foreign direct investments who are investing in India from the countries which are bordering India. Please do understand, these are for the countries which are bordering India. And now the new rules, as per it is, the security clearance will be given by the Ministry of Home Affairs. This is important. And FDI is allowed in. So when we are talking of the FDI, new FDI rules, wherein it will be in the non-critical. This is a very important keyword. So the FDI will be allowed in the non-critical, that means which are not critical. So definitely, what you mean by critical? Which will be hampering this national security. If there is anything which will hamper the national security, please do understand, which will hamper or create some problem to the national security or India's security, internal security and national security, they will not be given the permission for the foreign investors to invest in India. But FDI will be in the non-critical sectors. This is very important. In the non-critical sectors, for example, in the defense, in the media, telecommunication, satellites, private security agencies, civil aviation, and then mining. So these are the ones which are the non-critical sectors, wherein the FDI, foreign direct investments from the countries which are bordering with India, are now with the new security clearance from the new rules of the FDI. Please do understand FDI. And how many proposals are still awaiting? Around 200 investment proposals, that is the FDIs, foreign direct investments. Around 200 investment proposals are being in the waiting for the security clearance. And especially not only this, but also from the countries which are from the Pakistan, that is the investment from Pakistan and Bangladesh, are definitely they should get the clearance from what? From the Ministry of Home Affairs. This is very important. The foreign direct investments from the borders, from the countries which are bordering in India, have to get the clearance, and they will get the clearance in non-critical sectors such as defense, media, telecommunications, satellites, private security agencies, and civil aviation and mining. But it will not be, which will be definitely taken into consideration, which will not be considered from the investments which are coming from Bangladesh and Pakistan. But if you look at, I said earlier, government of India, please do understand, security clearance from government of India. But with the new rules, new FDI, please do understand, with the new FDI rules, the MHS nod is compulsory. That means clearance from the Ministry of Home Affairs is important or compulsory. But earlier, the proposals would have been cleared without MHS nod. See, that is very important. Why? Because India is now looking at the national security, and this is a key word, or we can use internal security, that is our security. And this is very important for the internal security as part of the international relations, as part of the international relations, that is in the GS paper 2, in part of international relations, which is internal security, part of international relations, and part of the political science and international relations. This information you have to look at. Definitely an analysis what I do is for the betterment of the prelims as well as mains examination. So national security or internal security is the keyword here. Please do understand. And here what is important is new rules of the Home Affairs for what? Security clearance from the foreign direct investments which are bought from the countries which are bought in from India. And then you have the non-critical sectors, I've told you, and the investment from Pakistan, Bangladesh are definitely taken into consideration by the permission only after the Ministry of Home Affairs guarantees it, or else it clears the security clearance. So this is important for prelims point of view. And Subbarao, Ravali, and Srinivas Rao, very good morning to you all. And here what is very important is the Department of or Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. Please do understand, because many of the civil servant aspirant, they will read and they will not really focus. What we need to focus is the key phrase. What is the key phrase here? Key phrase is certainly the DPIIT. DPIIT, that is Department for Promotion for Industry and Internal Trade, notified in the new FDI policy. So the new FDI policy, this is as per the new, and all this what I am saying is, please do understand, it is very important for prelims and mains examinations from economy point of view. Many of the students will not focus this. I'm saying maximum of the students will not focus this key phrase, that is Department for Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade, which is notified as per the new FDI policy, which has come into existence on April 18th 2020 this year. Why it has come, I'll tell you. Because China, why it has come? Why because China, at the time of COVID-19 pandemic situation, I am giving this extra information. At the time of COVID-19 pandemic situation, what China has done is, when the entire global equity markets, please do understand, when the global equity market, that is stock exchange, when the global equity market was totally, or it was almost, it has fallen down. That means fallen down in the sense, everyone, the stocks or the shares were sold out. Everyone were selling the shares. Everyone was selling the shares. In regards to, I am talking about the global equity markets. Even when we are talking about Indian Stock Exchange or Bombay and National, when we are talking about India, Bombay Stock Exchange or National Stock Exchange, in the Bombay and National Stock Exchange in India, globally, yes, global equity markets, everyone, all the one who were holding the shares were selling off, because they wanted to encash due to the COVID-19, or due to global supply chain system was totally down. Because of global supply chain system was totally down, and because of no imports and exports, because of the COVID-19 pandemic situation, the Indian, or that is Bombay and National Stock Exchange, in that also the shares, all the one who were holding the shares, like you, me, or anyone, the businessman who were holding the shares, or they were having the shares, they started selling it because they wanted to encash it. And at this situation, it was China's investors. Please do understand. At this situation, it was China's investors who had got into the mode of opportunistic. Please do understand. This is very important. Got into the mode of opportunistic takeovers or acquisition of Indian companies. That is very important. At the Chinese investors, at this situation, when the Indian businessmen or else who were holding the shares or they were having the shares, they were selling off. When the entire process was in the mode of selling the shares, China's investors, that is through FDI policy, FDI, they wanted to buy the shares of the Indian companies, and that is an opportunistic takeovers acquisition. So India was against the China's opportunistic acquisition. This is very, very important. India was against the Chinese opportunistic acquisitions of Indian companies, and because of that, India has come up with the new FDI policy. This is, I'm giving the entire explanation of the new FDI policies and how the government has gone ahead with making sure that, or else 200 investment proposals are been waiting for the security clearance because of the new rules of the FDI, which the FDI, that is foreign direct investments, who are having the companies in the countries which are bordering India, Please do understand, I'm giving you the entire explanation about this. Why there is 200 investment proposals awaiting because of this entire China opportunistic acquisition of Indian companies, that is especially in the stock markets. And what is the other one which is important is that the new FDI policy is notified where? It is notified in DPIIT, that is Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. And definitely, as I said, China has the India's largest trading partner, which is exceeding around 8 billion US dollars. This is for information which you need to keep a track of it. What is the trading which goes ahead between India and China is around or up to above 8 billion US dollars, and India shares the land boundaries with Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. You might be thinking that this is everyone knows about it. Yes, definitely you all know about it, but when it is given in the examinations, especially as part of the prelims in the State Public Service Commission or in the UPSC, you might get a doubt. So that is why I've given this. And why it is because the FDIs of the companies which are having their companies which borders India, that is Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, 7. So 7 countries borders India. So what is very important is here DPIIT. Please do understand, DPIIT is very, very important for the prelims point of view, economy. And I'm reiterating my statement once again, many of the students will not focus on this, and if you are not focusing on it, then for sure you are not getting into the right mode of preparation in regards to the economy, especially economy, as we are talking about the new FDI policy which is notified in the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. And then Ashwini Kumar has joined, Bharat Kalyan, Azmat Khan Mohammed, very good morning to you all. And investors from countries that are now not covered, so which are not covered from the new FDI policy. So I said FDI policy is applicable to the countries which are bordering India, I said so, that is especially Pakistan and Bangladesh and other countries, fine. But the countries which are not, Anil, I will say Anil, very good morning to you Anil, and HANEL Anil Kumar also, very good morning to you both of you. I will definitely. So the one who are not covered by the FDI policy, they have to just inform the RBI. Please do understand, the countries which are not covered by the new FDI policy, they are not, what do you say, they do not first have to go ahead with the Ministry of Home Affairs. The one who are covered by the countries which are covered by the new FDI policy, should only be having the clearance from the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the one who are not covered, they should get, or they should just inform the RBI, that is the Apex Bank of India, after completion of the transaction rather than seeking. So what is very important point here is, for a better understanding, is that the countries which are not covered by the new FDI policy need not take any security clearance from the Ministry of Home Affairs, but they just need to inform the RBI about the transactions or the FDI. And the center has amended the General Financial Rule 2017, and this is very important. Again, keyword, this is GFR, fine, and the other one is DPIIT, and these two are very important for your prelims point of view, and I'm saying many of them will not concentrate on these two, and UPSC will focus on this. UPSC will focus on these two keywords, that is General Finance Rules and then Department for Promotion of Industrial and Internal Trade. And the center has amended, this is very important keyword, the center has amended what? GFR. Center has notified new FDI rules in DPIIT. This understanding, conceptual understanding, you need to know. The new FDI policy is being notified in DPIIT, and the center has amended the GFR 2017. Why they have amended? To enable, to what do you say, get into the practice of imposition of restrictions on bidders from countries which share the land boundaries. So it is not only in regards to the countries or the companies which are investing, that is the FDIs who are having the companies in the countries which are bordering India, that they should take the clearance, security clearance from the Ministry of Home Affairs. Not only that, but the other one, as per the general finance rules, as per the general financial rules, the bidders or the companies, there is the restrictions on the bidders with India in relation to the public procurement. So the companies or the bidders who are wanting to have their FDIs in India, that is especially in regards to the public procurement. For what reason? Again, national security. So in regards to the national security, the FDI rules are being amended. That is the countries or the companies which are having their companies in the countries which are bordering India, they should take the security clearance from the Ministry of Home Affairs, and they cannot, and they are having the restrictions on the public procurement. These two are important, public procurement and the security clearance for the bidders. And the other one is DPIIT, as I said, and General Financial Rules 2017. These two are very important. And this one, in the year 2019, the Ministry of Home Affairs has come up with a framework for security clearance. Framework for security clearance. And in 2014, the clearance was almost 114 days for the security clearance in 2014, and in 2019 it has come down to 60 days. So this is a better information which I am giving you for the understanding about the security clearance. Framework for the security clearance in 2014 it was 104 days it used to take, the time limit, and in 2019 it has reduced to 60 days. So GFR DPIIT is very important. General finance rules and the framework for security clearance, and the RBI is also a keyword here. Please do understand all this. And when the government has come up with this new FDI rules, the central government has said that the state governments have to follow, or the state government should invoke or should follow, the state government should follow. Please do understand, I will write it here. The center has said the state government should follow the new FDI policy. This is very, very important, and I'm saying why. The center says the state government should follow the new FDI policy or the FDI rules. But I'm saying why? Why? Because the answer is because of the national security. Please do understand. Because of the national security. Because of national security, and the state has the vital role. Please do understand. State has the vital role in in the national security. This is very, very important. I am giving a small short notes for the mains answers also. Prakash has also joined. Very good morning. See, the center has said that the state government should follow the new FDI rules, and I am saying why. The reason why is because the state government has to follow because of the national security. Not only that, the state has the vital role in the maintaining of the national security. And what is very important here is the central government has said that the state government should follow, and it is invoking, the central government is invoking article 257 of 1. This is very, very important for you for the prelims point of view. Again, when we are talking, see, economy, we are discussing economy, but we have brought into this the article 257. Please do understand, this is not in the Hindu newspaper, but I have taken it for the benefit of you all, that how the economy part of the news can be linked with the polity, because we were talking about the new FDI rules. Please do understand, we were talking about the DPIIT, we were talking about the general finance rules, but all of a sudden article 257 has come into existence. Why? Because the central government can invoke, or as ask the state government to follow by invoking article 257 of 1. And what is article 257 of 1 of the Indian constitution says, we will also look at, and this is again I'm saying additional information, all is what my lecture would be, will be in regards to the analysis, not just what do you say, I just go ahead with taking few points and then I just say that okay, this is the today's newspaper. No, analysis, I will do complete or in-depth analysis, which what does the article 257(1) say, with the state government, central government has asked the state governments to follow or invoking the article 257(1). It says that the executive power of the union, this please do understand, the executive power of the union shall extend to the giving such direction to the state as may be appear to the government of India to be necessary for that purpose. So here the union is directing the states. So how the unions will direct the states? By article 257 of 1, which is enshrined in the Indian constitution, which is enshrined in the Indian constitution. So fifth article 257 of 1, which gives the union or the central government the power to direct the state to follow the instructions for the betterment, or which is very, very necessary for the nation or the national security. Please do understand. So the state government has the role in the national security, article 257, and then the power of the union to direct the state. This is very important. Harsha John, very good morning to Harsha. And again, this I have taken as an additional information, DPIIT, which is very, very important for economy point of view. So DPIIT, what did I say? What is DPIIT? That is Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. So it was established in the year 1995, not as DPIIT but as DIPP. Please do understand, this is what you need to look at as a civil servant aspirant. This is what you need to follow it. You need to follow this kind of what you say analysis or strategy or preparation. I am saying it very clearly. I am not exaggerating myself, but this is how you need to get into the mode of strategy or planning for the preparation for the civil services, of understanding what the DPIIT is. So DPIIT was established in the year 1995, but it was established not as DPIIT, but it has come up with DIPP. DIPP. What does DIPP means? That is Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. So it was not internal trade. So internal trade was not earlier mentioned in the original Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. Internal trade was not there, but internal trade was later on added in the year 2019. In 2019, so Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade has come into the existence. And what is the role of the department? It will be facilitating the investment and technology. So what does it do? It facilitates investments and technology, and it monitors industrial development. This point is very, very important in economic development of the country. Please do understand, for mains point of view also, I am saying it for the mains point of view also. So DIPP was established in 1995. Later on, DPIIT has come into existence, renaming the DIPP into DPIIT in 2019 by including the word called as internal trade. And what is the role of it? It is facilitating. It facilitates the investments and technology, and it monitors the industrial development in liberalized economy. And it is under which ministry? It is under the Ministry of Commerce. Ministry of Commerce and Industry. This is very important for prelims point of view. And DPIIT is the nodal agency for what? For the growth strategies. Please do understand, DPIIT is the nodal agency. Is a nodal agency for what? For the growth strategies. Please do understand, for the economic growth strategies. Please do understand, I have used the word economic development, I am using the word economic growth. So for the economic growth strategies, DPIIT is the nodal government agency under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, making sure that it concentrates on the socio-economic objectives. And these are all the keywords, socio-economic objectives, which is very, very important while you are mentioning in your mains answers. And national priority. So based on the socio-economic objectives and national priorities, DPIIT will, as a nodal agency under the Ministry of Commerce and Industries, it formulates and implements the growth strategies with taking into consideration the socio-economic objectives and national priorities. I have given a short answer for the mains. I have explained here a short answer for the mains in regards to the economic development and economic growth strategies. Taking into consideration DPIIT. Okay, before I get into the next, Bharat Kalyan says, Center only nodded for the countries which share land with us, but why not for other countries? Yeah. Okay, fine. Bharat, very good point. Because China, what it is doing is, China has set up companies in the countries which are bordering India. Please do understand. This is Bharat, as you asked about the doubt, and also for everyone. It is useful for everyone because China has set up companies which are bordering India. Fine. That means those companies are actually in, for example, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Nepal. For example, I am saying. For example. Fine. So they have set up. That means entire operation is based on that particular country's norms and condition. So it is not a China, even though it is a China company, but it is not having its presence in China, but having its presence, that company presence in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, or Bhutan, or Afghanistan, all the neighboring countries. So what is happening is the FDI is not directly coming from China. The FDI is not directly coming from China, but it is coming from the countries which are bordering India. For example, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, or Afghanistan, or Sri Lanka also. You can take that also. Fine. So this is the one which is very important. So what they have done is they have set up the companies. They have set up the companies. They are functioning the companies not in China but in these countries. So China is doing that opportunistic takeover or investments not directly from China companies which are stationed or set up in China, but from the other countries, that is in a proxy way. Proxy means in the sense in a different way. So India wanted to stop that. India wanted to stop that also. So China's companies which are not in China, but China companies which have set up or functioning in the countries which are bordering India, from there the investments are coming, or the takeover is coming, or the selling of the stock exchange share markets by an opportunistic takeover is also not accepted. That is what the ministry or the government of India says is very clear. So I think Bharat, you have understood it, and everyone. And Sridevi Ariga has also joined. Very good morning to you, Sridevi. And the other one is in regards to the general financial rules. This is again additional information which is not in the newspaper, which is not at all in the newspaper. GFR, General Finance Rule. Why? Because the foreign bidders, who wanted to procure, public procurement, as I said, I've used this word, public procurement. Please look at it. The restrictions on the bidders from the countries who are wanting to go ahead with the public procurement. There also the center has amended the GFR 2017. So we will also look at what is GFR 2017, because as I'm saying once again, no, or else maximum civil servant aspirants will not focus, as I've said, and I'm again saying, will not focus on what is DPIIT, what is GFR, but UPSC will focus. But UPSC will definitely focus on this, and it will frame questions on these kind of keywords. Anjanelu Saikiran, very good morning to you. And then GFR are what? It is rules and orders. They are rules and orders. For what? They are the rules and orders for dealing with matters or dealing with the public finance. Please do understand. So again, when I am talking about public finance here, please do understand, I am going back to the public administration also. Public administration. If at all, any of the, the one who are watching my video, if their optional subject is public administration, which is public finance is part of it. Public finance is part of the public administration. Please do understand. Please do understand. Public finance, the topic or the subject there is also part of the optional, that is public administration. So for that also, and also for the prelims point of view. For the mains, that is public administration or public finance, part of the public administration of the optional subject. Optional subject. This is also very important. So GFR is what? GFR is the rules and orders. It is the rules and orders which have been framed in regards to the dealing with the public finances. Dealing with the public finances. And it has been come up for the first time. The rules and orders dealing with the public finance has come up in the first time in the year 1947, and it was modified later on, amended, modified in 1963 and then 2005 and 2017 and now 2020. Please do understand, this is how I am giving you an extra information which is very important for the prelims as well as mains examinations, for economy point of view and for the public administration, which is part of the public finance. So the rules and orders dealing with the public finance has been for the first time in the year 1947, later on amended in 1963, and then again 2005, 2017, and now the center has amended the general financial rules, which the foreign bidders wanted to go ahead with the procurement, public procurement, now in the year 2020. Fine. So what has also come up is they have set up a task force for the rules and orders. So they have set up the task force to review what? To review the GFR. So what is GFR? GFR that is the general financial rules or the rules and orders which are dealing with the public finance. So which the rules which are dealing with the general financial or public financial, they have set up a task force. So who have come together to set up a task force? That is PAC has come together, Public Accounts Committee, and the group of secretaries, and then EMC, that is Expenditure Management Commission. So please do understand, this is very important. PAC, group of secretaries in 2016, PAC in 2015, Expenditure Management Commission in 2016 have recommended to set up a task force to review the GFR, and then again 2017, as we said, they have evolved as a result as coming up with the what do you say task force stage. They have come up with a new, that is General Financial Rules 2017. So what is very important here is the GFR for the prelims point of view. GFR, that is rules and orders which are dealing with the public finance, which has come up first time in the year 1947, extremely sorry, later on amended in 1963, and then 2005 and 2017, and they have come up with a task force. They have set up a task force. I mean, they have recommended. Who have recommended? PAC has recommended, group of secretaries have recommended, along with that Expenditure Management Commission have recommended, and at last in 2017 they have set up the task force stage, and now in 2020 they have gone ahead with amending the GFR 2017. This is the way you need to focus on the newspaper for having a thorough understanding of the UPSC. In whatever way the UPSC frame the questions, you should be in a position to handle it. And this is the what you say next information, that what it says is imported vaccines may be fast tracked. So I have said about this, which I said that is the Oxford University in the month of April. They have started the testing, that is in regards to the COVID-19, the human trials. They have gone ahead with in the month of April itself. Oxford University have gone ahead with the human trials of testing the COVID-19 vaccine. I have said this, fine, and I have also said that in the month of August, the Oxford University plus the Pune-based Serum Institute of India, both together will go ahead with the human trials in India in the month of August, that is next month, August 2020. So this is the information which I have given it already to you in the last week. This was in news, and now what is the news here is for today is that a guidance document has come up from a guidance document. So what is the document which has been released? A guidance document from the Department of Biological Technology or Biotechnology. A guidance document has been released from the Department of Biotechnology, wherein the Indian company, which I said the Serum Institute of India, will import or test the COVID-19 vaccine, which is developed internationally, as I said, in the Oxford, by the Oxford scientists in the Oxford University, that is in UK. And now why it is in news is that it could get a leeway, that is freedom, in the number of India specific tests and trials which will be taken up in the month of August, and they will definitely focus on the human safety test, and they will also focus on the safety studies, proof of concept, and dose finding status. So definitely in regards to the human safety test will be taken into consideration when they actually go ahead with the test and trials, that is the Oxford University and also the Serum Institute of India. As I said, this one, Pune based Serum Institute of India, Oxford University, they will conduct the phase 2 and the phase 3 trials in India. And what is very important keyword is that the Serum Institute of India, which is Pune based, has to get the no objection certificate, NOC. And who will produce this or give the NOC? To the Serum Institute of India plus the Oxford University, which is partnering with the AstraZeneca to manufacture the potential vaccine which has been developed by the Oxford University. Please do understand. So here the Serum Institute of India, and then AstraZeneca, and then Oxford University, all these three together. But they have to get the NOC clearance from the review committee on genetic manipulation. This is very important. So no objection certificate has to be approved from the review committee on genetic manipulation. And this is what? This is a body or organ of the biological or Department of Biotechnology. This is a body of Department of Biotechnology, because there would be a question that RCGM, that is the review committee on genetic manipulation, which is the central agency of providing the no objection certificate for the Pune based Serum Institute of India, which has been partnered with AstraZeneca with the Oxford University to have the clinical or phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trials, is a body of which among the following? Which among the following? So there could be a question like ICMR, or it could be like in regards to the Union Health Ministry, or Department of Biotechnology, or it could be in regards to the again NIMS, or AII, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So if the option is 4 of them, so it is a body or a unit of Department of Biotechnology is very important. So this is how you need to focus each and everything, that how it will be useful for the examination point of view. And not only that, we have another one, Hyderabad based Bharat Biotech, which has come up with a vaccine called as the Covaxin, which is again in collaboration with ICMR and now National Institute of Virology, which is again Pune based. Please do understand why I am saying is because when I am talking about Serum Institute of India, it is Pune based. And when it is Serum Institute of India, it will get the no objection certificate from the RCGM, which is part of Department of Biotechnology. This is very important. Here it is ICMR in regards to the Covaxin. Which has been developed by the Bharat Biotech. Please, these are very important for the prelims point of view. And they are going ahead with the phase 1 and phase 2 trial. But in regards to the Serum Institute of India, they go ahead with the phase 2 and phase 3 trial. Please do understand. Covaxin is phase 1 and phase 2, but the SII plus Oxford University, which will go ahead with the human clinical trials in the month of August, is phase 2 and phase 3. You need to know the differences. That is what the analysis is. And the next one is Russian Navy will soon get hypersonic nuclear weapons, says Putin. So what is very important here is the keyword is hypersonic. Keyword here in this news is the hypersonic. So definitely, what is hypersonic? It is related to speed which is more than 5 times. So it is related to speed, the speed which is greater than 5 times of sound. Again, very important for prelims, especially physics or SNT. So hypersonic, when we are talking about, okay, Madhavam Madhapuram is saying who has given the vaccine approval. You are talking in regards to the Pune-based Serum Institute along with Oxford University. So definitely it will be in collaboration with the Union Health Ministry plus ICMR. If your doubt, Madhava, if your doubt is in regards to the Oxford University plus Serum Institute of India, when you are talking about that human clinical trials, so it is the Union Health Ministry plus the ICMR, Indian Council for Medical Research, will give the authorization to go ahead with the human clinical trials. Why I am saying is it is the ICMR which has given to 21 institutions. I will tell you this also. In fact I've told you earlier also, 21 institutions to go ahead with the testing, that is human clinical trials of Covaxin, which is developed by Bharat Biotech. So it is ICMR which has given 21 institutions the permission to go ahead with the human clinical trials of Covaxin. So here in this case it is Union Health Ministry plus ICMR. Fine. So the hypersonic, what is hypersonic? It is the speed which is more than 5 times that of the speed of sound. This is very, very important. So why I am saying is, this is how you need to focus. Again, you need to keep on looking at how we can try to make sure that how best we can fit it for the UPSC prelims or mains examination. What is in the newspaper, current versus conventional. You should always link current issues with conventional topics. This is very important, and you need to get into this mode of strategic preparation. And when you are into this mode of strategic preparation, that you are able to link the current or the conventional issues or the topics with the conventional contemporary issues with the conventional topics, then no doubt you can clear the prelims. No doubt, I'm saying. So here the keyword is hypersonic. Hypersonic is the speed of more than 5 times the speed of sound, that is Mach 5. You have Mach 3, Mach 5, Mach 7. Fine. So that is what the speed of the sound, which is more than the 3 times more than the speed of the sound, 5 times more than the speed of the sound, 7 times more than the speed of the sound. So this is very important. And what the Russian President Vladimir Putin is saying is that they are now having the nuclear strike weapons and nuclear underwater drones. So what is important is Russia or Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, has made it very clear that the nuclear strike weapons and underwater nuclear drones are in the final stage or final phase of testing. This is very important for prelims. So nuclear strike weapons and underwater nuclear drones. And what is the strike weapon name called as? It is the zircon or zircon. You can call it as zircon. T is silent here, or T will be silent, or zircon. Hypersonic cruise missile, and then Poseidon. The name is Poseidon. For here nuclear underwater nuclear drone is Poseidon. These names, please do understand. The name of the weapon or the name of the underwater nuclear drone is Poseidon, and the name of the super hypersonic cruise missile is Zircon. So what is very important of this is the speed and the way it moves at an altitude of, and the altitude, the speed, the movement and the altitude of the traveling is 5 times the speed of the sound. That is what the importance of this, or the greatness of the missile. That is the nuclear strike weapons and underwater nuclear drones, which makes them difficult to track and intercept. That is what is very important. So it will be very difficult to track and intercept the speed, the movement and the altitude of the hypersonic cruise missile, that is the Zircon. That is Zircon. So if you look at here, this is the Zircon hypersonic missile, this one, and this is the underwater nuclear drone. So this drone also carries nuclear warheads. This drone also carries nuclear warheads. So it is not only drone, but it also carries nuclear warheads. And now again, this is an additional information. This is additional information because this is not part of, or this is not mentioned in the newspaper, but I am giving it for the prelims point of view, science and technology or physics, for the UPSC or the State Public Service Commission. About speed of sound. So what is speed of sound? It is the distance that sound waves travel in a given point of time. So the distance, that is the amount of distance traveled. So what is speed of sound? Is the distance traveled in a given point of time. Given point of time. So what is here important is the distance and time. Please do look at the speed of sound. Is the distance and the time. Distance and time. And the speed of sound is given as 343 meters per second. This is again, all this information is very important for prelims point of view. So what is the speed of the sound? It is generally 343 meters per second, and the sound waves are called as mechanical waves. Please do understand, they are mechanical waves, and mechanical waves can travel through a matter. What do you mean by matter? It is a medium. So definitely when a sound waves have to travel, it has to have a matter, that is it has to have a medium. So what is a medium here? It could be solid, it could be liquid, it could be gases. So definitely there has to be a medium, that is a matter, so that the sound waves, which are the mechanical waves, which have to pass or travel, so they travel most quickly. So solids, liquids and gases, if we take, the most quickly will be in the solids at a very faster pace. Next it will be in regards to the liquids, and then it is gases. So the sound travels maximum distance or quickly in solids, little less in liquids, and comparatively less in gases, or solids followed by liquids followed by gases. This is again very important for prelims point of view. And these are the particle matters or the air molecules. When the sound waves are traveling from the object wherein it is actually initiated, fine, and to the end, they travel in rarefaction and compression. So the mechanical waves, they follow or they get into the mode of rarefaction. Rarefactions in the sense the space of the molecules are more, compression is the space of the molecules are very close. They're compressed, they are rarefaction. So the wavelength is high and low, high and low. So the wavelength will be high and low, high and low. This is the wavelength when it is traveling from the object to the ear or to the human being. So it is in the form of rarefaction and compression. In the mechanical waves, travels often in the, that is 343 meters per second, and it travels more faster quickly in solids followed by liquids and gases. This is very important for the prelims, especially the one who are going for the state public service commissions both in Telangana or Andhra Pradesh. And they are closed, as I said, compression, and then rarefaction. Please do understand the keywords here. Compression means close, rarefaction means farther. So in the solids they will be closed, liquids little apart, and then gases more apart. Fine. And then this is I have given in the dry air, as I said, 343 meters per second. In water, 1437 meters per second. In wood, it is 3850 meters per second. In glass, 4540 meters per second. In aluminium, 6320 meters per second, speed of the sound. So what is very important is it travels very quickly. It travels very quickly whenever it is close. Whenever it is close, it will have the more vibration energy and it will travel quickly. So it travels quickly compared to air, water, wood, glass and aluminium. It is in the aluminium. This is again very important for prelims, especially in the State Public Service Commission. And this is an additional information I am giving. And the other one is the news, which is the North Korea reports first case as global infection, top 16 million. So we have seen the entire globe has been affected by COVID-19 pandemic situation, by the virus or the disease, COVID-19 disease or the SARS-CoV-2 virus. But it was the North Korea which is declared first suspected COVID-19 on July 27. That is, will be 26 and becoming the one of the last countries. So North Korea is the last country, one of the last country which is wherein the people are infected by the SARS-CoV-2, and just for information, the authorities says that the virus has been infected or it has been passed by a person who have been in South Korea, that is the city which is bordering the South Korea and North Korea, that is Kaesong, wherein the defector has returned back to North Korea and the virus has, come, or it has been suspected from that person. But the expert says that the virus has been entered into North Korea from China. This is just for information. So what is the one which is important is the first case has been suspected in North Korea, that is after almost the entire world is been affected, and Kashmir saffron now has GI certificate. So what is the keyword here is geographical indication. Geographical indication, GI tag is the keyword here. Geographical tag is the one. So the Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor, that is G.C. Murmu, has said that the Jammu and Kashmir or the saffron or Kashmir saffron, so which has got the geographical indication registration. Jammu and Kashmir administration, please to understand, has issued a certificate of geographical indication registration for Kashmir saffron. Kashmir saffron. So what is saffron? I will tell you, do not worry. Which is grown in the Kashmir Valley. Which is grown in the Kashmir Valley. Not Jammu, but in Kashmir Valley. why it is now the Jammu and Kashmir administration has said, and how does it help? Because it helps in exporting the Kashmir saffron, wherein it will help the farmers for the best remunerative price. That means they can make profits out of it. Once the GI tag has been attained to the Kashmir saffron, so the farmers who are involved in the production of the Kashmir saffrons will be now able to go ahead with having more prominence in regards to the Kashmir saffron being exported. Not only that, they will get a better price. They will get a better price also. And this is grown at an altitude of 1600 meters above the sea level. And what is important is that the decline, if you look at, there is a decline in production. There is a decline in production. There is a decline in production of Kashmir saffron. Decline of production of Kashmir saffron. So if you look at it, in 1996, it was 5,707 hectares of land were dedicated for the cultivation of Kashmir saffron. But by the year 2009 and 10, the entire cultivation of Kashmir saffron is just 3,715 hectares. So definitely the decline is almost 65 percentage of decline of Kashmir saffron since 2000 or 1996 to compare to 2009 and 10, and again compared to 2018, 65 percentage has been decline in regards to the production. So what is important here is the geographical indication registration certificate has been issued by the Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor GC Murmu for Kashmir saffron, which is grown in Kashmir Valley. But the other side of it, which is not really impressing, is that the production is reducing. Gopinayak says GI its topic is related with geography NASA. Yeah, see, definitely that's what. See, now that is what I am saying, geographical indication. That means wherein you can claim that it will be produced, and it is the kind of having that, say that it is dedicated only to that particular area, that is Kashmir Valley. So you can have the property rights, which can be again part of economy. Yes, as you said, geography. Fine. So this is the flower. Please do understand, this is the flower. This is a flower, and the petals here are the saffrons. This one is the Kashmir saffron. So it is, you have the flower and the petals. Petals are the saffron. You generally mix it with the milk and have it. The saffrons, you mix it with the milk and you have it. Generally when the mother is carrying or pregnant, they use this saffron. They mix it in the milk and have it. Fine. So this again I have given it for a better understanding, which wherein it will store it in your subconscious mind. This flower and the saffron. So the question for the day, mains point of view, as attention shifts from the immediate health and human effects. So I have focused here in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. So here I am talking, or I have focused on or looked at, which will be related to health and economy, both health plus economy. Post or now, during the COVID-19 and now at this transition phase and post COVID-19 pandemic situation. This is what it is. As the attention shifts from the immediate health and human effects, from the immediate health and human effects of pandemic to, so it is shifting from health and human effects to what? Social and economic effects. So who has to come into the rescue? The governments and societies. The governments and the societies now face unprecedented policy, regulatory and fiscal choices. So what is important is, as I was repeatedly talking about, the health ministry or union health ministry along with the ICMR, they go ahead with giving guidelines, new guidelines, always new guidelines. So what is happening is, because we have seen health, fine. So what is here when we are looked at the life or life and livelihood. Please do understand, lives and livelihood we have discussed. I have discussed almost 1.5 months. You have these videos also in the YouTube. You also can look at it. The government of India or the Union Health Ministry is sandwiched between the life and livelihood, protecting the lives, protecting lives and providing livelihood. Please do understand, protecting the lives and providing the livelihoods. Please do understand this. If you can understand these two keywords, protecting lives as well as providing livelihoods, and what is very important is both are important. First P plus second P. What is that? First P is protecting the life, second P is providing the livelihoods. That is what? Health and economic effects, which is again human effects is livelihood, which is again socio-economic effects. And because of that, governments and societies are unprecedented. That means they are bound to go ahead with various policies, regulatory and fiscal choices. That is in regards to the fiscal choices here, in regards to the way the government of India, the Prime Minister of India or the Finance Minister has come up with the economic stimulus package. Fine. Clear, one thing we'll look at. So I'll read once again. As attention shifts from the immediate health and human effects of the pandemic, that is COVID-19 pandemic, to, it is shifting from health and human effects to what? To addressing its social economic effects. So it has to address the social and economic effects. So definitely socio-economic effects is what is the keyword here. Socio-economic effects, that is the consequences, repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic situations or the guidelines or protecting the lives and providing the livelihoods. The governments, the societies are facing the unprecedented policy, regulatory and fiscal choices. We'll stop. The Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, these are very, very important. So look at it. We are linking the COVID-19 pandemic situations or the guidelines of the Union Health Ministry with the Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations. How many Sustainable Development Goals are there? 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This is how you need to focus. And the United Nations is firm in regards to achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. And earlier two Sustainable Development Goals, they were Millennium Development Goals. Millennium Development Goals. And this was that United Nations said that they have to achieve the Millennium Development Goals by 2015. and these SDGs were initiated in 2015, and target is by 2030 that all the 17 sustainable development goals have to be attained by all the countries in the United Nations General Assembly. Almost 190 plus countries have to attain the 17 sustainable development goals. So I am giving just extra information about sustainable development goals. Now I'll go to the question. The sustainable development goals, that is a commitment to eradicate poverty. So it is a commitment to eradicate poverty and achieve sustainable development. So what is the main motto of the SDGs, that is 17? I said it is to make sure that it will eradicate poverty and it will also go ahead with achieving this sustainable development globally. That is very important by 2030. And what is that we need to look at is, and these sustainable development goals can serve as a beacon in these turbulent times. Beacon in the sense like a torch, like a torch, like a torch. So it can serve as a beacon in these turbulent times. What turbulent times? That is life versus livelihood. Life versus livelihood. Comment. So this is a very good question for the mains. It could be in general essay, in science and technology also, or part of the SNT mains. So I think you have understood the importance of these questions, why I have given this. Health, human effects, addressing the social and economic effects, wherein the governments and the societies are faced to unprecedented policies, regulatory and fiscal choices, and wherein the SDGs, which have to eradicate poverty and achieve sustainable development goals, can be as a beacon in these turbulent times. So linking, please do understand, here we are linking the COVID-19 pandemic. Please do understand the way we are linking the COVID-19 pandemic with SDGs. So two topics we are linking, and I've linked two topics and framed a question, and this is the answer. This is a question for you. Comment. Fine. And Gopi Naik says socio-economic reforms. Yes. Praveen Kumar says thank you. Okay, fine. So what we have discussed is in regards to the proposals, new FDI rules, and then in regards to the SNT, that is Oxford University plus the Serum Institute of India, and then here in regards to the hypersonics cruise missile. North Korea, first country. I mean this is the last country to be affected by the SARS-CoV-2, and again here the GI tag. So this we have discussed, that is recapitulate, we have done it. So I hope, so I would say a very big thank you to all, and then good luck. So good luck is the result of good planning. So whenever I say good luck, that means I hope that you are in the good planning. Please do understand. So whenever I say good luck, that means it is a result of your good planning. Fine. Thank you very much, and then good luck to you all. And then do like the video, share the video, subscribe the video, and then visit aksis.com, and also the telegram link t.me/aksis, and also my telegram link t.me/Sandeep Bhushan SBT. So I hope this was Very, very important and knowledgeable session. And then, as I say, do maintain consistency, and then go ahead with sticking to your schedule, sticking to your schedule, and then take care of your personal health and mental health. And then see you tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. And I once again reiterate that this was a very informative, knowledgeable session for you for both UPSC or State Public Service Commission, especially focusing for both prelims and mains by emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases. So thank you all. Thank you all. See you tomorrow at 7:30 a.m.